綺麗だ。あ、今のはその。
ちょっとやめれよ、そういうの。
Winter 2024, Hokkaido Gals. I don't know.
Are adorable.
Is that actually the title? We're talking about the show that Kevin finished the title of. It is a show that happened. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so for this show, there's another one that I was super hyped for. This was up there with Tales of the Wedding Rings.
I think this is the only one that you like straight up knew was airing.
Yeah. This was one that I was like following since it got announced. I'm a big fan of the manga. Just like Tales of the Wedding Rings, it was one of those ones where I was following it pretty closely. I got to where it was fully translated. I waited and then it kind of fell off because I just forgot about it. And so I was really enjoying the manga. And so when this got announced, I was like so hyped. And I forced you to watch it, and this is another show that I'm proud to put in what I lovingly call the Gyaruverse, up there with My Dress Up Darling and Nagatoro. But it's one of these amazing Gyaru shows that I'm so happy it's now finally becoming a trend. And this show met my expectations exactly where I was hoping it would be, and I think it's a very adorable show. And I love the main heroines of Minami and Sayuri. They're my absolute favorites. I'm so happy to finally see them animated and voice acted and everything. And I know for a fact that you hate this show. So tell me, Kurt, why do you hate this show? Why do you have such hatred in your heart?
This was my favorite show of the season.
What?
Liar! Lies!
You sit on a throne of lies.
Of course, this wasn't my favorite. I will say this. At least it wasn't as bad as Wedding Ring because it's not ugly to look at. It's very average looking, which is like out of the two shows that you recommended, one was like abominable, like an abomination, a visual abomination. So this being like average was like essentially was like Redline. Like this could have been like hand drawn, and that was like the difference between this and the Wedding Ring.
Which one did you watch first?
I just bounced around because it was so painful to watch.
Oh my god!
But I watched this, and as another one, I instantly knew why you liked it. You see the shades of Dress Up Darling. You see the shades of teasing Master Takagi. You see the shades of Nagatoro, right? I think that's kind of that's kind of the genre, right? Where it's like the relationship is kind of built on this sort of like playfulness and kind of
the
joking with each other,
opposite attract kind of joke.
And the protagonist is very like majime, very straight laced, right?
はじめまして、四季翼です。昨日東京から引っ越してきました。よろしくお願いします。
I think that actually the gamer girl calls him very majime, like in the scene, in one of the scenes. But my issue with these shows is I don't understand why I feel like 10 years ago, the protagonists of these sort of shows were just like a nothing because they're supposed to be like self-inserts, right? Like they had no personality, they had no distinguishing characters, and back then we're like, these shows, the protagonists are so bland, they don't have anything about them, they're essentially an author insert, yada yada yada, right? But now that it's taken it to this step, like the Rent-A-Girlfriend and the this and the Wedding Ring, where they're just like such insufferable perverts.
こうすればもっと良きじゃん。
うわ、めっちゃいい匂い。
お、翼の目半開きなんだけど、ウケる。
Like it just like I'm like I want to go back to when they're just like essentially you could have just had a mannequin.
But they've all in this genre they've always been perverts.
Was Ichika like a pervert like this? Do I just not remember? Do I have rose tinted glasses on?
Yep.
Again, like it felt like there wasn't too much to grasp in the show compared to something like what little I've seen of Takagi or what I've seen. I watched all of Dress Up Darling.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough parts of those other shows where it doesn't focus just on the like weird awkward stuff.
So
which
like
is, I don't appreciate it.
yeah, so like I remember you actually surprisingly like Dress Up Darling.
Yeah.
So
I shockingly did.
Why would you not necessarily put this in the same category as Dress Up Darling when it's kind
I
of
felt like it has so it has a lot of similar stuff.
Yeah.
Right? There's no doubt to that.
Yeah.
But it felt like the characters had personalities and things they're working through, right? Like there was insecurities that the characters had that you could be like, oh, this is this is close to what people have, like insecurities and flaws, right? Whereas these characters are a lot
well,
less
I mean,
of that.
Sayuri has her flaw. Like she's insecure. She isn't able to break out of her shell, despite her trying to take on the gal look to get people to talk to her. But it's not necessary. It is actually backfires because she's so attractive. People are intimidated by her.
私さ、なるべく人と馴染めるよう見た目には気使ってるんだ。でも根がこれだから距離感つかむ前に惹かれるか怖がられんだよね。そんで結局唯一得意なゲームに逃げるっていう。マジでダメだな私。
And then you have the main character. He comes from a very like rich traditional family, and he's very naive about the way the world works. Minami is trying to break him out of his shell, and so he said like, "Oh, I've had a lot of my first times with you, going to the hanging out and or eating cotton candy and stuff like that. I've never done before." And so I think there is a lot to these characters.
I think that the difference between this main character
And go, yeah, well, like,
and the Dress Up Darling character,
Gojo,
right?
yeah.
Is that his insecurities, like it's very surface level insecurities. The main character in Dress Up Darling's insecurities are he feels like his masculinity is challenged because he's doing this ancient Japanese art form that can be perceived as feminine.
気持ち悪い。なんでわっちゃん男の子のくせに女の子の人形好きなのよ。わっちゃんなんて大嫌い。
Right? There are like layers to that, right? That feel more real to me, right? Whereas this guy's just like, I'm awkward because I'm a rich guy and I was a nerd back in Tokyo and no one wanted to talk to me, but now people talk to me, right? It feels surface level, the issues they have. Whereas in Dress Up Darling, a lot of those characters feel like their issues are more layered, and it comes from not just kind of like, again, very basic details about the character. They feel woven into the character in a way that this show doesn't feel to me. It's kind of silly in some ways, but like Hokkaido has its own culture and people, right?
Yeah.
That's separate from mainland Japan. And the fact that they don't, maybe they do in the future, but so far they have not really drawn from that in a way that this does not have to be. So far, it doesn't feel to me like this has to be in Hokkaido, right?
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair.
Right.
I can't wait for like the spin-offs though. There's like the Okinawa Gals
Oh,
are
boy.
adorable, and Saitama Gals is adorable. You know, we got to get the other prefectures going. But
yeah, like I just wish. I mean, again, it's so stupid for some ecchi show that I'm like, I want deep and layered characters.
know.
It's so silly, right?
You're
Again,
so stupid.
this is like asking how much fiber is in a Snickers bar. You're like, can I get some nutritional value out of this? How much protein is in a Snickers bar? It feels like a show.
it should feel
Well,
like a
the
show.
Wedding Ring Story does not feel like a show. Wedding Ring Story feels like something that should have stayed in the author's mind. This one also probably should have stayed in the author's mind, right? In the end, it's like almost futile to like complain about those sort of things. Like,
Well,
if you're gonna watch the show and enjoy it, you're gonna watch the show and enjoy
I mean,
it.
I think
and there's nothing that anyone can do to stop you.
Yeah,
And
I think that's a
Yeah.
pretty like on the
Yeah.
nose point where
Yeah.
it's like you probably already know if you're gonna like
Yeah.
the show or not.
again, I knew in 30 seconds of turning this episode on to know that I had no interest in the show. Again, I understand if you disagree because you really enjoy the show, right? So of course you're gonna come to bat for it, right? But again, at least it wasn't Wedding Ring Story because that was miserable to watch. This at least was like an average show. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a fine average show. I wasn't painful to watch, and again, it's not like super flat coloring like in Wedding Ring Story.
So yeah, I mean, overall, I think if you are a big fan of these like love triangle, cutesy, just
I feel like it's just like the like teasing type.
Yeah.
Takagi, Nagatoro, this, and
Or if you're a fan
Dress
of
Up Darling.
If you're a fan of Gaddis, Minami and Sayuri are
Well,
a treat.
I feel like they're gonna watch it no matter why. Why are they listening to two schmucks? They fucking know they're gonna watch the show. They don't need our two
which is
schmuck
why
opinions.
all your arguments are invalid.
Honestly, like I said, I've already acknowledged that any criticisms that I may have levied on the show are probably futile, because why would you expect to have anything more? I didn't even hate it. Like, it wasn't painful to watch. Like Wedding Ring Story was painful to watch. Maybe for you this is the most painful thing that I'm going to say about both these shows. Maybe indifference is worse than hate.
No.
Because that's my feeling, indifference.
I'd rather you be indifferent than hate it.
Okay, well, you got your
No,
your
fuck
deal.
you. Fuck you. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you loved our content, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.